Hey everybody, it's Matt. Thought I'd do a video. I wanted to do a response to the Random, also known as Chad. He's got a contest going on that's to talk about your, I don't know, I guess it's talk about your record store day experiences or memories or thoughts on record store day, or show some of the stuff you've gotten in record store days past. Anyway, always glad to help a fellow Texan out. And we'll probably be seeing you here in a month or so at Doc's Records on Record Store Day there, standing in line and hanging out and eating the free barbecue and drinking the free beer and listening to the bands. So looking forward to that. I didn't really know what to do for the contest, so I thought I'd just show some records that I bought in past Record Store Days. I have seen part of the list. I don't think the whole list is out for this year yet, but what I've seen was not really, nothing really rang my bell, and did see there were 3 Kinks 45s or EPs. 2 of them are just reprints of old EPs from the 60s, which I don't know whether I'll bother to pick those or not. And one of them is a couple of live tracks on a single from the 60s. I think it's just from the Live Kinks album. So You Really Got Me and Milk Cow Blues. I think there might be a couple other songs on there, so I may get that, but I was looking through the list and they had The Family Way by Paul McCartney's coming out, which would have excited me, but I actually picked up an original copy of that here a year or so ago, so I don't really have any need to get a repress of it. And there's nothing extra or no colored vinyl or anything. I think it's just a basic repress, which is nice for McCartney collectors to have, but since I already have the album, and that's one I've been looking for a long time, for years actually, so I'm glad to have it. So there's a Zombie album I saw that's sort of a unreleased, some tracks that were never released from the 60s by the Zombies, so that might be kind of interesting. And that's really all I saw, but like I said, I guess the whole list is still yet to come, so there might be some things. Kind of glad that there's not a whole lot that I want, because money's tight right now and I don't really need to be spending anything on money-wise or credit card-wise. But I'm sure when the rest of the list comes out, that'll probably see 20 things I want. So, yeah, what else about Record Store Day? I usually go to Doc's Records, like Chad was talking about there in Fort Worth, and sometimes Record Town. So I said this before, but it still kind of surprises me that Record Store Day is such a young thing. I actually went to the second one and have gone to every one since. At the time, I didn't know it was the second one because I had heard about it a year or two or something before, somewhere before. I remembered hearing about it and thinking that was kind of cool, and just kind of off the cuff heard something about Record Store Days coming that year, which would have been 207 or so, I think, 207, 208. Thought, well, that'd be cool, I'll go. And I really thought that it had been around for quite a while. I thought it started back in the 90s or something. I didn't realize it was only, I think this is going to be maybe the 8th year. I think last year was the 7th. But yeah, I've kind of tempered my buying in recent Record Store Days to because in previous ones I kind of went nuts and would see stuff, and just, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, so you pick stuff up. And quite a few things that I bought, I'm not sorry that I own them, but I don't really play a lot. Quite a few of the records that I picked up, they're just kind of on the shelf there. And so I've kind of tried to tone it down a little bit to try to pick things that I don't already have, and things that I think, that I will actually play instead of just buy and set on the shelf. Just give you a quick example. This one, and this might have been back in 207 or 208, I don't remember. This was one of the earliest Record Store Days I went to, and I picked this up, and this is just a repress of a Rolling Stones EP. I mean, it's limited edition. It's got a number on it. I got number 11,123 out of however many they made. But, I mean, this thing, I think, the original came out back around 72, 71. So it'd be nice to have an original. But I picked up a lot of things like this that are just basically represses of earlier 45s or albums, and I kind of quit doing that in recent years. But an exception to that, I did pick this up a couple of record store days later. It's got a glare on it, and it Got Live If You Want It, Rolling Stones EP. Now, the reason I picked this up is because in America, I guess in England too, there's the Got Live If You Want It live album from 1966, I believe it is. This was the EP that came out, but this was only came out in England, not in America, and it has some songs that are not on the album. So there's some other things on here that are not on the regular album. So I got it because of that, even though it's a repress, and I would prefer to have the original from back in the 60s, but those are pricey, and so it was nice to get that and get something I didn't have. But yeah, so I just thought I would go through. I was going to do my top 10 favorite record store day pickups, but I went through the 45s and the albums, and I think I picked up about 15 or 20. So instead of a top 10, it's going to be the top whatever this is. And we'll just go through real quick, starting with the singles. Got a Christmas single of all things first up. This is Bessie Smith, At the Christmas Ball. It's on red vinyl, and I'm trying to get that where we get rid of some of that glare, but I don't think it's going to happen. Anyway, this is from 1929, these recordings, I believe. It's from the 20s anyway. At the Christmas Ball is on the first side, and there's another song on the second side that is not Christmas related at all. It's also a Bessie Smith song, though. It is Jazzbo Brown from Memphis Town, which doesn't have anything to do with Christmas. But this was from, I think, the most recent Black Friday record store day, because they always have some Christmas related items. So anyway, I picked that up, and both sides of this are just blindingly, awesomely good, just incredible music. So Christmas or not, and like I said, the second song's not Christmas related, but just incredible old 20s music. Bessie Smith is one of the grandmother of the blues, or one of the originators of the blues from back in those days. So just a great, and I've played that several times since I got it. Here's another quick one. Charlie Brown Christmas album soundtrack, which I have, of course, one of my favorite Christmas albums. But this is Linus and Lucy and Oh Good Grief. This was just nothing that's not on the album, but it was I don't think this was colored vinyl there. This was the Black Friday Record Store Day 2013, I believe. It wasn't last year's. So this is fun to have, even though I already have those stuff on the album. Here's a EP. It's got 245s, and I kind of bought this. Was kind of a blind buy. Link Ray. I mean, I know Rumble. Everyone does. You know, an old classic rock and roll song. These have 4 songs, I believe. Big City After Dark, Hold It, and Dance Party Parts 1 and 2, which is one's on one side and one's on the other. And these were apparently very rare 45s back in when he was active back in the late 50s through the 60s. So, but just didn't know what they were. Thought the cover looked cool, picked it up, and they are all 4 songs are just incredible. Made me want to check out Link Ray a little more, because I really didn't know much about him other than he was one of the early guitar heroes, and Rumble, you know, I knew that song. But Big City After Dark, every song on here is just incredible. So I was really glad to pick this up. I didn't know what I was getting going in, but I was impressed by it. Want to check out some more Link Ray stuff. That's the Rolling Stones actual record from the Got Live If You Want It. Okay, I'm always bragging about old Lydia Lovelace, calling her the best music I've heard in the last 30 years or so. Here is a record store day from 2010, I believe. This is a limited edition 45. One of Bad Way to Go is off of her album before the one that came out last year, her second album. And the flip side has a cover of Allison, the old Elvis Costello song. And this was a limited edition limited to 1,000. So I was glad to get that. Incredible singer. Check her out. Check out Somewhere Else, her album from 24. I keep saying that, but check it out. One of the best albums of the last few decades. Okay. So then when Somewhere Else came out, last year, she had another record store day, and this is another limited to 1,000. And it's Mile High and Blind, which is actually a cover of a Kesha song, which surprisingly Lydia does a very good job of. I looked up the Kesha version on YouTube and got through about 30 seconds of it, and that's all I could take. But it's on limited lime green vinyl and long since sold out, so that's nice to have. Flying Blind or Mile High is a track that was an extra track that was not on her Somewhere Else album. Well, they made the Bloodshot Records, the label she is on, ordered the lime green vinyl, 1,000 of them, but the pressing plant did the 1,000 colored vinyl versions, and then they messed up and did I don't know how many on black vinyl. That might be even less than the colored vinyl. So the record company just took them and decided to sell them, and that was also a limited edition, which is also sold out. This was after Record Store Day, so there you go. I don't know what that is. That's not a Record Store Day thing. It's unrelated, so we won't mess with that. So yeah, albums. Let's get to and I'm not going to go through all this, but this is the Imagine John Lennon box set. This was Black Friday Record Store Day back in probably, I want to say 2009, 2010. It's got the Imagine album, it's got the postcards, the posters in it, and it's got a second album of kind of outtakes and alternate versions of some of the songs on Imagine. I've got Imagine, the album, of course, and I play that. It's one of my favorite Lennon albums. So I don't actually play the Imagine album out of this very much, but I do pull out the second disc pretty often and play it because it's got, and it's Imagine Sessions by John Lennon. It's on white vinyl, and it's, I think it's only like 5 or 6 songs, but it's some pretty neat stuff. So yeah, it's 6 songs, and it's just alternate or early take versions of some of the songs on Imagine. So it's a nice box set, nice presentation, and a good album for the alternate that I do actually pull out and listen to. And also I didn't pull it out, but I have the box set of Cheap Trick's first 5 albums that I got a couple of Record Store Days again. And again, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly which specific Record Store Day these things came from. I kind of don't remember. But first 5 Cheap Trick albums, and that was good to get on vinyl because I hadn't had those since I was back in high school, and some of those I never had on vinyl. I had on cassette tapes or 8 tracks way back when. Another Christmas album, what's that, Death Might Be Your Santa Claus. Really great album, and it's a limited numbered edition thing too, number 1230. A lot of old Christmas songs from the 20s and 30s. A lot of things that are obscure, so you're not getting the Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Jingle Bells and Silent Night. You're getting a lot of stuff that's way more obscure, and Don't Think I'm Santa, He Was Born in a Manger, Did You Spend Christmas in Jail? A whole lot of stuff, and it's really cool, old 30s and 40s kind of blues and country and just old-timey great music. And one of my favorite Christmas albums. Is a lot of fun. So I do pull that out every Christmas and play it. This is the last Record Store Day, the Black Friday one, which oddly enough has a Venus and Mars sticker that I stuck in the, I'm not sure how that got in there, because I got Venus and Mars around about the same time. Anyway, Muswell Hillbillies by the Kinks. I'm still reviewing all the Kinks albums in order, and when I did Muswell Hillbillies, I gave it just a fair at best review last year, but since then I've been listening to it a lot more, and it's really grown on me. My opinion of the album has improved vastly. It's still not rate it as good as their 60s run of great albums, but it's a pretty great album all the same. And this is it was a single album originally. This is a double album. The second album has outtakes and unreleased stuff from around that time, so it's got some pretty good stuff on the bonus disc too. And the Kinks had released all their albums on CDs with deluxe editions with bonus discs, and I wish they would have done vinyl versions for all of them, because they did Lola, they did you know, Arthur and Something Else and King's Controversy. So this was put out for Record Store Day, and I wish they'd do more of these on vinyl, like those deluxe editions with the 2 albums. And I hope there's more to come with the Kinks albums they haven't put out yet on the deluxe edition. But anyway, really good buy, and I've enjoyed this and played it a lot. Each Record Store Day, they get the people who run Record Store Day or curate Record Store Day, whoever that might be, to pick an artist or a genre and put together songs for an album. I think this was the first one they did. It was The Doors, and so just kind of a, you know, you got Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Moonlight Drive, When the Music's Over, Love Street, Unknown Soldier, Roadhouse Blues, and 5 to 1. Just you know, we've heard all these songs before, but sounds, good copy sounds good, and those songs, that particular order, just meshes really good together, sounds great, and just a good little blast of Doors music. So I like that particular album. Been playing that a lot. Velvet Underground's final album, if you don't count Squeeze, and there's no reason you should, but Loaded, and this is on colored vinyl. And I've got this on CD, but never had it on album, so it's good to have. It's a great album. Of course, you got that purplish white colored vinyl. Doesn't hurt. Pretty neat. But just a great album, and it's good to finally have it on vinyl. So when I picked that up, last Record Store Day, I believe it was. Don't remember exactly. They've had a bunch of Miles Davis albums for Record Store Days, and this is one of them. Someday My Prince Will Come. I've got a couple of others, and they got a 10-inch Davis at the last Record Store Day. But it's good to be building up a Miles Davis collection there, and this stuff's always fun, and this is a really good album, so I do play that a lot. Not a big country fan, but Charlie Poole and the Highlanders, and I've shown most of these records before, complete Paramount and Brunswick recordings from 1929. This is kind of, what's the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Or soundtrack to Bonnie and Clyde or Beverly Hillbillies type music. Kind of sounds like that old 20s country stuff, kind of hillbilly music. Fun stuff, and I do enjoy that and play it quite a bit. This was a great find because I had heard of Shuggie Otis, but hadn't really heard him other than, what's the song there? Strawberry Letter Number 23, which was a hit for somebody else, even though he wrote it. His version is better, I think, but just an incredible, great soul music artist, and wanting to get more of his stuff. And I'm not sure how much he actually recorded, but this is just sort of an introduction to kind of a greatest hits package, but just an incredible album if you love soul music. Really worth getting. One of my favorite singers of all time, Mr. Sam Cooke. Ain't That Good News is, I don't know if this is, I think this was an actual album of his, but just really good record. Not a bad song on here, and incredible voice. It's Sam Cooke, you can't go wrong. Great picture, label's great. The label's got this picture on it of his face, but you know, one of the greatest soul singers of all time, one of the greatest singers of all time, so you can't go wrong. It's another one I bought a few Record Store Days ago, Little Richard's first album. It's on orange vinyl, and just an incredible, you know, and I never had any Little Richard records. Everyone knows his songs, but it's on red vinyl. But Tutti Frutti, True Fine Mama, Can't Believe You Want to Leave, Ready Teddy, Slippin' and Slidin', Long Tall Sally, Rip It Up, Jenny Jenny, She's Got It, and even the non-hits on here are just A+. So the whole album, top to bottom, is good. And you know, they say that records were full of filler until the 60s. Well, this came out in until the 60s, yeah, and this came out in the 50s. There's not a bad song on here, just one of the best albums of the 50s, definitely. So, Small Faces, there are but 4 Small Faces, great band, just a lot of another top to bottom, not a bad song on there. Just one of the great bands of the 60s that kind of got overlooked. We're almost to the end here. We got Donny Hathaway. I'm start trying to take these out of the Live at the Bitter End, 1971. Another great live soul album. One song is takes up a whole side of the album. It's 21 minutes long. Just a great, you know, just a huge, heavy slab of soul. Just incredible, wonderful album. Good stuff. And we're getting to the end here. Calexico, I guess that's how you say their name. Got a CD of theirs, Feast of Wire, that I got 10-15 years ago. Kind of like them. This is a live album that was only released for Record Store Day, and it's selections from a couple of concerts they played in Arizona, I believe. And just a great band. And I've got copy number 267, so that's pretty cool. But kind of a rock and roll sort of Tejano music and sort of movie soundtrack, like the you know, the spaghetti western movie soundtrack. Just big, broad, cinematic music, and incredible band. And this is a great live album. And this is one I got 4 or 5 years ago, and I play it quite often. I'm not a huge Grateful Dead fan, but their first album came out on Record Store Day. They always have something on Record Store Day, but this is their first album, and it's the mono version. And they're a little more poppy and garage rocky on their first couple albums from what they later became. And this is a fun album, so I got that. And what else? That's about it. I was just thinking the only other thing I could add maybe is a couple of record store things that there's always, you go and you got your list, and there's always, for me at least, there's 1 or 2 things that you wanted that you didn't get, and you don't really feel like paying $80 on Amazon, or I mean eBay, to get them. So they did 4 of the Kinks albums, but there was only Record Store Day in England. It wasn't America, unfortunately. They did Face to Face, Arthur, and I think, well, maybe they did 3 of them. But anyway, so they did they were single albums originally, but they made them double albums. So you had a mono version and a stereo copy, and they were on colored vinyl. I would have loved to have gotten those, but I've seen those on eBay, and they're pretty pricey. So maybe someday. They did a Shangri-La's EP, but unfortunately that also was only released in England. And then last Record Store Day, I really wanted to get Weird Scenes Inside the Gold Mine, the old double album by the Doors of it's not really greatest hits because it's got a lot of album tracks on it. It's kind of a cool, strange little compilation there, and I couldn't find a copy of that, so would have liked to have had that. And then I don't know, what would you like to see come out on a Record Store Day in the future? There's like a million things I could think of, but kind of thinking maybe some of those, like you know, Beatle guys, some of those Ringo and Paul albums that some of the Ringo albums that never came out on vinyl, that were only CD release, and maybe some of those Paul albums that came out on vinyl in very limited editions, so they're, you know, really expensive if you find them now. And there's some other stuff, but that'll do for now. So anyway, Chad, it's a good idea for a contest. I hope you get a lot of entries, and looking forward to I'll show up at Record Store Day, depending whatever's on the list. Even if I don't find much anything I like, I'll still show up just for the fun of it. And hope to see you out there. And all right, hope everybody's doing well. We'll talk to you soon.